Hello, saints of the Most High. I'm Tim Cowles. This is According to His Will Ministry, and we have another exciting study for you today. I hope this video finds you in good spirit and of good faith. We want to look at the term today, which is commonly called the Lord's Day. Is it a term like the Trinity, or a term like the Rapture, or a term like even Bible or Christian? There is a biblical concept but not actually found in the Bible, or is it actually mentioned within the Bible context? And not only that, which day is the Lord's Day? I know we've been taught one thing and we've kind of held fast to those teachings, but is that what the Bible outlines as the Lord's Day? Not want to waste any time, notwithstanding, we want to jump right in. And first thing is, does the Bible describe the Lord's Day? And we want to turn to Revelation chapter 1 and verse 10, where it says, and we have John the Revelator speaking here, saying, I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and heard behind me a great voice as of a trumpet. Now, John here clearly says he was in the Spirit on the Lord's day. So that knocks the first myth out of the way that the Lord's day is not actually in the Bible. It is in the Bible. It mentions the Lord's day. Okay, the next idea we want to look at, which day does Jesus Christ claim is his own day? Which day does the Lord say is his day? For that, we need to go to Matthew chapter 12 and verse 8, where it says, the Son of Man is Lord, even of the Sabbath day. So, okay, we knocked two thoughts out of the way already. The first thought is the Lord's day biblical? Yes, John actually mentions the Lord having a specific day in Revelation chapter 1 and verse 10. The second thought is, what does Jesus say is his day? And Matthew 12 verse 8 tells us Jesus says he's the Lord even of the Sabbath day. Okay, now we need to get into some closer detail. What day of the week is the Sabbath day? Okay, and I know many of us have always thought, well, hey, I go to church every Sabbath day and spend time with the Lord, but have you really been going on the Sabbath day to spend time with the Lord? Let's go to Exodus 20 verses 8 through 11, and I'll begin reading. Exodus 20 verse 8 through 11 reads as follows. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. So already we have some criteria for this day. We're supposed to remember. It's supposed to be in the pinnacle of our mind, at the forefront of our mind rather, and we're supposed to keep it holy. It goes on to say in verse 10, verse 9 rather. Yes, verse 9. It goes on to say in verse 9, 6 days shall thou labor and do all thy work. And verse 10 goes there, but the seventh day is the Sabbath. Which day? The seventh day is the Sabbath. Now, let's pull up some calendars. Go ahead, I'll wait a minute. Pull up your phone. Use your calendar on your wall. Use the calendar on your computer if you're sitting before a computer like me. And you'll notice that on your calendar, the seventh day of the week, we start at the beginning of the week, Sunday, you have Monday, you have Tuesday, you have Wednesday, you have Thursday, followed by Friday, and the seventh day is actually Saturday. Interesting. So we have Sunday, which I'm sure many of us have been taught that is the Lord's day. It's actually the first day of the week. And all the way at the end, 6 days over, we have Saturday, which is translated in many languages as Sabbath, Sabbath, Shabbat. Many different languages translate this seventh day as Sabbath. The Jews have been dispersed all across the world, and they still have no problem identifying the seventh day as Sabbath, and what we commonly call Sunday is the first day of the week. Okay. So, another thing I hear all the time is, well, that's all good. We've heard about this Sabbath, and that's fine and dandy, but that was for the old covenant. That's not something that we're required to keep as part of the new covenant. But we have to understand, okay, the terms for the old covenant, and I could go a lot deeper into this, but for the sake of time, the terms of the old covenant were established at Mount Sinai. Can we all agree on that? Okay. The terms of the old covenant were established at Mount Sinai. But let's see when the Sabbath was first instituted by God. And we have to go to Genesis chapter 2, verses 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to run over these really quickly. And it says, thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. Okay? In verse 2, it says, and on the seventh day, God rested from the works which he had made. And it goes on to say, and God blessed the seventh day. I'm sorry, I want to be factual with it. It says, I'm in verse 3 now, I jumped a little bit ahead, but it says, God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it God had rested from all his works which God created and made. Okay, so it goes on to tell us here that the seventh day Sabbath was actually established at creation, and Adam and Eve were neither Gentile nor Jew. Also, a little further insight on this: the old covenant had came to exist until about 2,000 years later. So we know from observing that text there in Genesis 2 that the Sabbath actually was more than just a part of the old covenant. The next thing we want to look at, which member of the Godhead, I won't say Trinity because I don't want anyone to eat me alive, which member of the Godhead actually was the creator of the Sabbath day. And we want to start at John chapter 1 and verse 10. And John chapter 1 and verse 10 says, he was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. Now let me back up a little bit to the part where it says he was in the world. Okay, who's the member of the Godhead that was actually came into human form into the world? And it goes on to say about this entity that was in the world of the Godhead Trinity, this deity, that the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. I would even go on to say they crucified. The next text we want to look at in supporting this verse, and I'm going to be mindful of the time. We want to go to, let's see, should we do Hebrew? Let's go to Hebrews chapter 1 and verses 1 and 2. It says, God, who in sundry times and in divers manners, in times past, spoke to the fathers by the prophet, who have in these last days spoken unto us by his Son, whom he have appointed heir of all things, and by whom he made the worlds. Okay, so is there any question about who they're talking about in these verses? They're talking about Jesus Christ. Okay, now let's look at one more thing. Was the Sabbath actually made for the Jews and not for modern day Christians today? And let's see what Jesus Christ actually has to say about this great holy day. We're reading in Mark chapter 2, 27 and verse 28, where it says, but he said unto them, the Son of Man is Lord also of the Sabbath day. There he goes. He reconfirms that he's the Lord of the Sabbath day. The Lord's day is the Sabbath day, which we discovered in Exodus 20, verses 8 through 11. That the seventh day, which we call Saturday today, is the Sabbath day of the Lord. And he says he's the Lord of this day. Okay, let's go on and see what he says in verse 28. Therefore, actually, I'm reading backward. Let's go back. I was in verse 28. Let's go back up to verse 27. And verse 27 says, the Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath day. Now, what Jesus Christ is saying here is, he says that the Sabbath day was made for the Jews. No, that's not what it says there in verse 27 is. He says the Sabbath day was made for who? Man. Remember, it was created before there was Jew or Gentile in the creation of this planet. So the Sabbath day was actually established for mankind and not man for the Sabbath. Okay, and if God's going out of his way to give us blessed holy time to spend with him, to fellowship, to spend with family, who are we really to say that we'll keep it however we choose to keep it? Get what I'm saying? If God makes it holy, blessed, and sanctified, hallowed, can we bless, hallow, sanctify our own days? We can't do that. We must remember that every man shall not live by bread alone, Matthew 4 verses 4 and 5, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. That's what we live by, the solemn commandments of God. Okay? And next question, and we'll probably wrap this video up and finish part 2 in next week's video. So be back here next Friday, a day after Christmas, December 26th, if you want to hear the concluding part of this Lord's Day study. Okay? But we're going to look at one final text, and it's answering the question, which day did Jesus commonly worship on? What day of the week did Jesus keep as special hallowed time to go to church and to fellowship and read the scriptures? Go to Luke chapter 4 and verse 16, where it tells us, and he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up for to read. Now, I put a lot of emphasis on that part in Luke 4 and verse 16 that says, and as his custom was, and as his custom was. Notice anytime you're saying a custom, what are you saying? This is something that somebody does consistently. If I said it was my custom to get up and start preparing for work 30 minutes early, you would assume that when I'm getting ready to go to work, I normally do this before I go to work. So, just some couple of things to put on your mind. Next week, we will conclude this 2-part study on the Lord's Day. I hope you were blessed by this study. And remember, when God brings new light to you, new biblical truth, don't see it as offensive. Don't see it as a new burden, but rejoice. God has seen you worthy to be the partakers of the divine nature. There's no greater blessing than this. I want to thank you solemnly just for tuning in and spending this time with me. Prayerfully study over these verses that we went over. Write them down. Make notes out of them. Pray. Ask God to open up the scripture and the true meaning of these things to you. And you best believe, you can rest assured, and you can take this all the way to the bank, that God does not disappoint when it comes to expounding upon his word by spirit. I'm Tim Cowles from According to His Will Ministry. If you found this video to be a blessing, please like, please comment below and let me know what you think. Please share this video with friends so that they can also be blessed and edified by these discoveries from the Bible. Until next time, I'm Tim Cowles.